The world of children's entertainment exists in this weird space where the people that work on it and create the content that children consume are actually going to be the target audience. With watching the content they make, they'll get a sense of satisfaction of a job well done, but they can't really gauge whether it's enjoyable or not unless it's something there for them to look at. That's why you end up with kids shows having mature or adult jokes sprinkled in from time to time to keep the adults that are likely watching the kids' content with their children entertained. Shows like SpongeBob and Teen Titans Go are notorious for it. But sometimes the jokes or references can go a bit far, and now you have someone putting a bit into an episode simply to satisfy their own personal agenda. That's when you start to see strange, detailed, lingering shots of feet for no reason, or liquid being launched at characters in a very suggestive way, or just characters themselves getting caught in very compromising situations. Now, while these are examples of someone trying to take the fantasies in their own heads and actualize it on the screen, sometimes you get bits or even episodes where you wonder if the end goal was to scar the children for life, either by its gruesome nature or by being obscenely disgusting. The prime example we'll be looking at today is one episode of the Cartoon Network series codenamed Kids Next Door that, to this day, causes my skin to crawl. It starts off as a parody of one of those old noir detective films from the 1940s with our guy, number 2, monologuing about missing kids and the entire scene being baked in a heavy sepia filter. Number 2 actually plays a detective in this episode, which is a recurring gag for him throughout the series. In this episode, he's trying to discover why so many kids have been going missing when suddenly a scream is heard from down the hall. This is where we get our first look at Pink Eye, which looks less like a mild bacterial infection and more like a flesh-eating parasite that's attempting to consume its host. Apparently, there's been a lot of cases of pink eye going around. We then get introduced to the rest of the characters who will be important this episode. Joe, who is literally a copy and paste of a rival character from one of those old noir detective films, who even has the dramatic voice.
Hoagie Gilligan? I thought I told all civilians to go back to class.
And Nurse Claiborne, a kind nurse type who swoops in to bring the victim to the nurse's office. After investigating the scene of the crime, number 2 returns to his office when he narrowly dodges an assassination attempt. Number 2 manages to chase down his would-be assassin, who turns out to be Joe. Apparently, this investigation into missing children is actually part of a larger conspiracy that Joe seems to be involved with. Right before he's about to spill his guts, they're attacked, and Joe is given a face full of some pink-eye surprise, which leaves him looking like a horror movie villain. Desperate to help an old friend, he rushes Joe to the nurse's office, but to his surprise, the victim from earlier doesn't seem to be found anywhere. In fact, none of the alleged pink eye cases are there. This is where he and subsequently us learn the disgusting truth and are shown the scene that I can still remember vividly to this day. Nurse Claiborne had been using the pink eye crust from the kids as the topping for a famous apple crumble, something that we've seen number 2 eating all throughout the episode. He unsurprisingly has an existential crisis and freaks out at how disgusting this is as she attempts to explain her evil plot to him. After regaining his senses, and with a little help from Joe, number 2 is able to stop Nurse Claiborne, but she manages to escape thanks to some crafty trickery with the eye crust. After freeing the kids, the episode ends in the grossest way possible. After discovering the truth behind the conspiracy, after finding out that he isn't eating a baked topping but the scraped away bacteria from other people's faces, number 2 decides that the apple crumble is just too good to throw away and continues to eat them. And to put the final layer on this disgusting sandwich, we get the answer to a question that no one really had.
So, if the crumble topping was eye crust, what was the filling?
Yeah. My first thought after seeing this episode as a child was, wow, that's disgusting. And after revisiting the episode as an adult, this sentiment stands. That's disgusting. I really gotta hand it to the creators of this episode for creating something that left such a lasting impact. I remember as a kid being turned off of anything that had toppings remotely close to similar to the apple crumble, and now after having revisited it as an adult, I'll have to keep a closer eye on the food I eat today. If you like this video, then subscribe, and I'll talk about more shows from my childhood that left a lasting impact.